A researcher in Kyoto points at a container. The dog looks at her, then at the container, and runs right to it. Food inside. Good dog. She does it again, pointing at a different container this time. The dog runs over. No food. Third round, she points at a container. There's food in it. She knows it. The dog knows it. But the dog doesn't move. It just looks at her. 34 dogs went through this experiment. 34 dogs made the same choice. Not most of them. Every single one. This moment raises a question we'll return to later. But first, we need to understand what was really going on inside those dogs' heads. Because it's not what you might expect, and it's not what most of the internet claims. Search online for "Can dogs sense bad people?" and you'll find 100 articles insisting. Yes, absolutely. Dogs have a sixth sense. They read your energy. They just know. Some of those claims draw from real research, but they skip the most interesting part. Your dog isn't psychic. They're not reading auras. What they do instead is honestly more impressive than that. It's a precise system at work, one that runs in real time. You've probably felt this yourself. Someone steps into your house, and your dog doesn't bark or get aggressive. It just hangs back, watches closely, maybe sits a little nearer to you than usual. You can't quite explain it, but something tells you the dog sees what you sense too. That moment isn't magic. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly what your dog is processing when they size up a stranger like that. The actual steps behind it. And it might shift the way you observe them meeting someone new. So what's actually happening when your dog sizes someone up? Think about the last time your dog met a stranger. In the first 2 or 3 seconds, before you've even finished saying hello, your dog has already started running a kind of assessment. It's not one single thing. It's several channels firing at once, so fast it looks like pure instinct. First, they're reading the person's whole body, not just the face, but the way their weight shifts as they walk in. Whether their hands are tense or loose, whether their movement toward the dog is direct or curved. Dogs are extraordinarily sensitive to these motion patterns. Someone moving unpredictably or with tension registers differently than someone relaxed. Your dog picks that up before the person even makes eye contact with you. That body read gives your dog an immediate sense of the person's state, helping them gauge if this is someone steady or off balance right from the start. At the same time, your dog's nose is pulling in chemical information you can't even perceive. Changes in human body chemistry from nervousness, aggression, or fear produce volatile organic compounds that dogs detect clearly. They're not sizing up personality traits here. They're reading the real-time chemical signals from that person's body. Layered on top of that, and often the part people miss, is how your dog watches that person interact with you. They pick up the tone between you two, the body language. Whether you tense up or relax, your dog has been studying your patterns for years. Any disruption in those patterns stands out as key information. None of these alone, body motion, scent, or social cues, can spot an unreliable person. But combined in those first few seconds, they create a full picture that looks like your dog just knows. Now back to that experiment in Kyoto. This is where it all connects. In 2015, a researcher named Akiko Takaoka wanted to test something precise. Do dogs automatically follow human pointing gestures, or do they evaluate the person pointing? Here's how it worked. A dog is in a room with 2 containers. The experimenter points to one. There's food inside, and the dog finds it. Trust is established through that gesture. Next round, the same experimenter points to the other container. The dog runs over. It's empty. The experimenter has lied in the one language the dog understands, pointing. Round 3. The experimenter points to a container that does have food. The dog knows it. The experimenter knows the dog knows. But the dog looks at the experimenter, looks at the container, and stays put. Not out of disinterest in food or confusion. The dog has decided this human is not reliable. All after one trial, one broken promise. In a follow-up, Takaoka swapped in a new person for round 3. Same setup. The dogs followed that new pointer right away. They hadn't lost faith in pointing gestures overall or grown suspicious of everyone. They had targeted their distrust at that one specific person. Takaoka told the BBC she was surprised at how quickly the dogs devalued the reliability of that human. John Bradshaw from the University of Bristol, who wasn't involved, noted that dogs crave predictability. Inconsistent behavior doesn't just confuse them, it stresses them. Your dog isn't making a moral call. They're shielding themselves from chaos, and they can lose trust in a single gesture, remembering exactly who caused it. That last study looked at how dogs handle strangers who break trust directly. Now consider what happens when someone wrongs you, their owner. In the same year at the same Kyoto University but a different lab, Hitomi Chijiwa and her team ran an experiment to test this. A dog watched its owner try to open a container and then ask a nearby stranger for help. In one setup, the stranger helped willingly. In another, the stranger deliberately refused, turning away and looking at the floor. A third person stayed neutral the whole time, just sitting there. Right after that interaction, both the stranger, either the helper or refuser, and the neutral person offered the dog a treat. It was the same treat, offered at the same time, with nobody looking at the dog to avoid any subtle hints. When the stranger had helped the owner, the dogs took treats from both people without any preference. Everything seemed fine. But when the stranger had refused to help the owner, the dogs ignored the treat from that person entirely. They walked right past the free food and chose the treat from the neutral stranger instead. This meant a dog turned down food from someone who had been unkind to its person, even though the unkindness had no direct impact on the dog itself. No one was competing for the dog's resources or even touching the dog. It was just observing. Researchers called this third-party effective evaluation, the first time it had been seen in a non-primate species. It shows dogs do not just track personal reliability. They track kindness, and especially kindness toward the people they care about most. What stands out here is how the dogs responded. They did not reward the helpful stranger with extra attention. They punished the unhelpful one by shunning them. This is a negativity bias at work. Dogs weigh bad behavior more heavily than good. Think about why that makes sense from an evolutionary view. Spotting who to avoid can keep you alive, while noting who to thank is less urgent. Your dog might not fuss over generosity, but they keep track of those who refuse to help you, and they hold on to that information. One more study takes this even further, looking at whether dogs can separate a simple mistake from an outright lie. A team at the University of Vienna tested 260 dogs with this setup. First, a person hid a treat in one of two buckets. Then a second person moved the treat to the other bucket. In one case, the first person watched the switch happen, so they knew where the treat really was. In the other case, the first person left the room during the switch and truly did not know. When the first person returned, they pointed to the original bucket, the now empty one. From the dog's view, the pointing gesture looked exactly the same both times, someone indicating the wrong spot, yet the results differed sharply. When the person had seen the switch and was pointing wrongly on purpose, a lie, the dogs were far more likely to ignore the point and go to the correct bucket themselves. But when the person had missed the switch and was wrong without knowing, the dogs followed the pointing more often. They extended the benefit of the doubt to honest mistakes. This suggests dogs might not just follow actions. They could be picking up on intent. Not just this person pointed wrong, but this person pointed wrong and knew it. Breed. Excelled at spotting the deception. Terriers, bred for going it alone like chasing prey into holes, acted more like human toddlers. They followed the liar more often in the intentional case. Now, I promise to be honest with the evidence. So here is a study that did not go as expected. In 2025, just last year, researcher Hoi Lam Jim at Kyoto University published work with 40 pet dogs. These dogs watched humans act generous or selfish when handing out food to another dog. Afterward, the test dogs got to choose who to approach. The results showed nothing. No preference for the generous person, no avoidance of the selfish one, even after seeing it happen right there. Jim herself was surprised by this. She noted that reputation formation in dogs may be more complex than previously thought. She pointed to possible methodological challenges or environmental distractions in the test design as explanations, but she stood by the finding as real. What does this mean alongside the other studies? This is my read on the evidence. The experiments that do show dogs evaluating people often involve something directly at stake for the dog's bond with their owner. In Chijiwa's work, a stranger wronged the owner. In Takaoka's, someone lied straight to the dog. But in Jim's more abstract setup, watching strangers with an unrelated dog, the signal was not strong enough to trigger a clear response. Your dog might not run checks on every stranger at the park. Yet when it comes to your home and the people close to you, where social ties really count for them, the science points in one direction. Some of you watching might worry right now. You could be thinking about your own dog, the one who loves everyone, who greets the delivery person, the neighbor, even the vet with a wag and a lean in. Does that mean your dog cannot do any of this? Not at all. The dogs in these studies did not start out suspicious by nature. Most begin from a place of trust. It takes a clear, observable violation to flip that switch and start the evaluation. If your dog stays friendly, it just means no one has given a reason to flag them yet. That friendliness says more about the people around you than any flaw in your dog. And terriers bring their own angle here. Those breeds, shaped by history for independent work, like chasing prey into holes on their own, do not weigh social cues the same way. They act more like human toddlers in the Vienna tests, following pointers even when deception was clear. It is not that they miss the signs. They just decide for themselves, checking the situation firsthand without deferring to human hierarchy. Pay attention, though, if your dog, who usually trusts everyone, suddenly hangs back or refuses to approach someone. That shift is not random. It comes from a dog who has been open until this exact moment when something in the body language, scent, or your interaction changed the read. In your home, surrounded by the dynamics that matter most to them, this is where their assessments turn sharp. The pattern holds across the studies that hit close to those bonds. So let's go back to that lab in Kyoto. A researcher points at a container. The dog looks at her. The dog looks at the container. And the dog stays exactly where it is. That dog isn't staying still because it's suspicious. It's staying still because it remembers. It remembers the last time it trusted this person and what happened. It took that one experience, a single broken promise, and used it to make a decision about the future. Your dog does this all the time, not psychically, not magically. Through a system refined over thousands of years of living beside people who sometimes lie, sometimes help, sometimes turn away. Dogs learned long ago that humans are complicated. Instead of giving up on us, they built ways to sort through that. Every time your dog meets someone and pauses, just for a second, before deciding how to feel, that's not instinct. That's 10,000 years of paying attention. And they're paying attention because of you.